Earlier this year, eggs hit a record price of over $6 a dozen. Though prices have fallen since, they could soon go back up. And the reason is avian flu. It's not going away. Tens of millions of egg-laying hens have been lost to the flu nationwide this year. 6 million hens were lost at one Arizona egg producer just last month, decimating Hickman's family farms, the biggest egg farm in the Southwest. The man who runs Hickman says there's an easy solution to stopping the bird flu, but the federal government won't allow him and other egg producers to use it. This video was obtained exclusively by 12 News, and it's not easy to watch. Dead chickens, not just a few, or a wheelbarrow, or a front-end loader full, or even a full truckload. This is just a fraction of the 6 million birds dead at Hickman's family farms after avian flu infected the flock. As workers cleaned the barns wearing hazmat gear, most of the chickens were buried here under huge mounds of dirt on the property.
In 3 weeks, we've watched an 81-year-old business go from full blast to zero.
Glenn Hickman is the president of Hickman Family Farms. He walked us through the empty processing plant, empty barns, empty coolers. The losses in livestock, jobs, and revenue are huge, and Hickman's frustration is mounting.
If we got hit by lightning, we'd understand that that's just the luck of the draw that day. But getting hit by bird flu is totally preventable.
The prevention he's talking about is an avian flu vaccine. It's actually manufactured here in the U.S. and it's used in other countries. But because of current USDA regulations, it's not available for commercial bird flocks here in the U.S. Instead of vaccinating birds against the virus, the U.S. policy right now is to destroy the entire flock.
And I'm not a virologist, I'm not a veterinarian or anything in between. I'm just telling you that there is no logical reason that we shouldn't be using it here in the United States.
So this really is an endgame pandemic for birds.
Dr. David Ingelthaler is the director of T-Gen North for ASU and has extensive experience with viruses.
I think vaccines should be part of a multi-pronged strategy. Right now, that's the prong that's not being used. I think it really does need to be explored. The vaccines that are used in birds right now have been used really around the world in multiple countries.
We can't vaccinate our chickens, yet we're buying eggs from Mexico to help solve the egg shortage, and they vaccinate their chickens.
The USDA has been less than clear on its vaccination policy, saying only it's studying its use. Part of the issue is the massive industry of chicken meat called broilers being exported. Some countries won't allow importation of vaccinated chicken meat. But Hickman argues his hens are only used for laying eggs and should be allowed to be vaccinated. Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton agrees. He wrote the head of the USDA, saying in part, "I write to strongly urge the U.S. Department of Agriculture to reinstate a comprehensive vaccination strategy that combats the avian flu that's devastating egg producers in Arizona and across the country." A USDA undersecretary then replied, "The decision to proceed with poultry vaccination is complex and considers logistical factors such as trade ramifications." But while federal leaders debate the use of vaccines, Hickman fears what's going to happen as he puts chickens back in his barns.
There's nothing to prevent it from happening again. We have 350,000 baby chicks coming in July, and I have no idea what I'm going to do differently to keep those 350,000 baby chicks healthy from getting the virus again.
Hickman's is bringing in 350,000 chicks a month to replenish their flock. The process will take 2 years. That's if the bird flu doesn't hit them again. Now to 12 Plus special features, extended interviews with Glenn Hickman and Dr. Ingelthaler, and more of the exclusive drone video from the egg farm. Where are we standing right now?
We're standing in the middle of barn 7. So this barn was first populated in 2015 and remodeled for cage-free about 3 years ago.
And so normally, what would be in here?
300,000 cage-free hens.
Just in this building?
Just in this barn.
And what's here now?
There's not a chicken on the facility. There's 14 barns here, there's one pullet barn, and there's not a chicken here.
And when you look around, what goes through your mind?
Devastation. I mean, it's devastating for our customers. It's devastating for the families that work with us. It's devastating, for the economy. It's an avoidable tragedy, and that's what's so frustrating about it. If we got hit by lightning, we'd understand that that's just the luck of the draw that day. But getting hit by bird flu is totally preventable.
Okay, let's go into that. How do you prevent it?
Well, the simple way is we've tried the holistic approach, making sure that if you enter a barn with chickens that you're showered and put on clean clothes, and that we ask all of our employees to not visit people that have birds. We've asked them not to go to the zoo when they've had outbreaks out there. And so, we do all those kind of prophylactic things to try to keep the virus at bay. And we've run out of that. The virus is so thick in the environment now that it's airborne. And we simply cannot battle an airborne disease with common biosecurity. So the easy answer, Troy, is vaccine. If we could vaccinate the birds, which we can do, we already vaccinate at day old at the hatchery. This vaccine can be given at the same time. It doesn't take an extra poke. It doesn't take any extra handling. And then when we vaccinate again at 10 weeks, we do the same thing. We're already vaccinating for chicken pox and bronchitis, and this is just would be added to that vaccine package. So it's literally nothing extra to do. And we could avoid all this economic devastation by just simply vaccinating our chickens.
Why aren't you doing it?
I don't know if there's a good answer. I know what the political answer is that the USDA is still looking at what the issues are with regard to trade with other countries, and how they're going to monitor the use of vaccine and all those things. We get that answer. But that doesn't have anything to do with protecting our flock. That's protecting someone else's wallet.
So if the USDA is worried about exporting chickens for meat, how would that affect you and your chickens?
Well, our chickens, you might consider our chickens like a dairy, and the meat birds are like a feedlot. They're both cows, but they're totally different genetics, and they have totally different uses. So there wouldn't be any intersection. Our country doesn't export any eggs anyway, so we don't really care if our eggs can't go to other countries. And there's a bit of a political challenge even there. We can't vaccinate our chickens, yet we're buying eggs from Mexico to help solve the egg shortage, and they vaccinate their chickens.
How does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense. No matter how many times I say it, it doesn't make sense, and it will never make sense.
So when you talk to people in positions of authority and say this, what's the response you're getting?
Some of the same bureaucratic gobbledygook, that we're studying the problem, that we're looking at it, that we're trying to figure out how it's going to impact our trade partners. But Troy, this vaccine that is manufactured in the United States has been manufactured since February of 23. It's being shipped to Europe. So those countries are vaccinating their poultry and protecting their flocks, and we can't use it here. So there's nothing, in my opinion, and I'm not a virologist, I'm not a veterinarian or anything in between. I'm just telling you that there is no logical reason that we shouldn't be using it here in the United States.
Well, tell me what you're seeing in terms of, you're talking about this as being like an endgame pandemic for the birds. Explain that to me.
Yeah, well, this avian flu virus came out of Asia, really only a few years ago. It picked up some mutations that made it incredibly pathogenic to birds and spread around the world really quickly. And now just a couple years later, we've seen 175 million poultry being affected. We've seen probably another 100 million wild birds around the world dying from this virus. So this really is an endgame pandemic for birds. We got to watch it very closely for human health aspects, but also human economic aspects. That's what we're seeing right now, especially with the impact on Hickman and all the poultry producers, as well as in a lot of cattle operations too.
Right. So what do you suggest Hickman could do at this point?
Yeah, so what we're seeing, poultry operators, they have a lot of arrows in the quiver, increased biosecurity, keep better enclosures, keeping wild birds and animals out, better biosafety and personal protective equipment. But an important arrow definitely is vaccines. So right now, that's where we're stuck. They don't have an ability to use vaccines, and it really is important for limiting the amount of spread.
What are your thoughts on that? Should they be able to use them?
Well, I think we ought to be able to understand our policies better, understand the needs for policies in preventing vaccines in use in certain food animals. But in this particular case, we're really suffering tremendous economic impacts, not just for great producers like Hickman's, but also for the consumer in being able to purchase eggs.
Mm. And so you coming from a scientific aspect of this whole thing, do you think it'd be safe to vaccinate these birds?
I think vaccines should be part of a multi-pronged strategy. Right now, that's the prong that's not being used. I think it really does need to be explored. The vaccines that are used in birds right now have been used, really around the world in multiple countries, and we ought to look and learn, gain lessons from that to see how that could be implemented. I'm not sure where the policy is going to shift potentially, hopefully in the near future. That'd be great if it did, but there's a lot of information that we can learn from right now.
You know, Glenn Hickman told me next month they're getting 350,000 brand new chicks in that same facility. And he says, why should I think anything different is going to happen with those chicks? And they're putting them in 350,000 a month for 20 months.
Yeah, this is a rough business, obviously, to be in right now. This virus has effectively become a pandemic. It's spread around the world, and we see it in every state in the US, certainly throughout Arizona, and most of the impact on agriculture in Arizona has been just in the last few months. So this virus is not going away. It's just not causing human infections, so we're not paying enough attention to it.
Hmm. And what has changed in the last, it used to be kind of seasonal, and the Hickmans now are saying it's not seasonal. It's just here.
Yeah, this is not a seasonal flu like we would have, our normal human flu. It's spreading around in birds that are moving around the country and just maintaining it. So we're not going to see it die down anytime soon because it's so well situated and just simmering out there in the